Hey everybody, and welcome to Truck King. So this is our second video in our series looking at the 2025 Truck of the Year. So what are we looking at right here? Well, the Ford Ranger was all new this year. Several different trims, including this one, the Raptor, and we're going to look at all of those, discuss them right now.
As Dad said off the top, we've tested just about every type of Ranger, and now technically this was a model year 2024, but we didn't get to test this truck before we announced Truck of the Year last year, so that's why it's falling into 2025. And now we've had a full year with the 4-cylinder, the 6-cylinder, this Raptor, so we can really talk about the whole range, Dad. And this is a big deal for Ford, no doubt about it. The midsize segment, is a big segment in pickup trucks. Now granted, Ford was the one who kind of killed the midsize segment when they made the Ranger go away, and then it feels like they realized their mistake and they brought it back, and now we have a brand new Ranger, because even when the Ranger came back in 2019, it was still an old version of the truck that the rest of the world got.
It was the European version, and quite frankly, a lot of what was in it was aimed at markets outside of North America, which kind of didn't translate.
Right, so this is kind of their first kick at the can, North Americanizing this truck, if you want to put it that way.
Yep.
And there's a lot of examples of that. So I think I want to start with the powertrains, because in my head, this is one of the strongest selling points of the Ranger, because it has more options than anything else in this segment. You have your base Turbo 4, you have your upgraded Turbo V6, and then you have this engine in the Ranger Raptor, the 3-liter turbocharged 6. So you get 3 different options. And you know what, Dad, especially talking Raptor, I like when the top-end off-road truck gets a special engine. And I feel like Ford always does that. They always think, you know what, if you're gonna go for that Raptor, let's give you more power. Other brands don't do that. They just leave the same engine. Ford does. So I appreciate the amount of choices we have in powertrains. And then I'll also say, if you go for that base EcoBoost, it doesn't feel lacking. This is not the old world of trucks where the base engine felt like a real dog. You go for the base EcoBoost here, and it's totally competitive with everything else out there. So yes, in my brain, powertrains here and powertrain choices is one of the big selling points on the new Ranger.
That is a mark in Ford's favor. They do call themselves a truck company now, because as you can see, they get away from cars, with the exception of the Mustang. So, they really do listen to their customers, and in this market right here, power matters.
Yeah, absolutely. So then in general, with the new Ranger, the interior, totally new, and that was a big deal too, because again, like I mentioned, when it came in 19, the interior already felt old, even though they called it new, it wasn't. Now we have a new interior, big touchscreen in the middle, feels fully modernized, and again, fully competitive with everything else out there. And again, a big point on the interior for me is the back seat. This is the best back seat in the midsize segment. Maybe that doesn't matter to some people, but if you're putting people back there regularly, even kids, car seats, that back seat matters. And I really appreciate that from Ford, especially considering that this is the only way you can get this truck. Ford did do that to us. They don't give us bed length options anymore. They don't give us cab options. This is the only way you can get the Ranger. So with that in mind, I'm happy at least we got a big back seat out of the deal.
In a lot of ways, they're following the trends throughout the industry, which is they're cutting out the very little chosen options.
Right.
And then spending their money where people actually care, like 3 engines.
Yeah, exactly. So I like the power. Interior feels really good here as well. I want to talk about styling now, Dad, and we're not going to do this for every truck, but I think it's worth kind of really calling out on the Ranger, because this is a worldwide product. Unlike the other trucks sold here in North America and the other trucks you're going to see in this series, this truck has to sell everywhere. So what I would say is, if you look at a North American truck, they all have to look really angry, really aggressive. Like, look at the new Tacoma, look at a Colorado. Angry and aggressive are the words that come to mind. It's not necessarily what comes to mind when you look at this truck. It's a little more rounded off, a little softer on the edges. And the other reason I bring this up is because there's so many comments about it. I feel like we don't see that many comments about styling. On the Ranger, there's a ton of comments, mostly people not liking it. So I do wonder if that's the one area where, you know, Ford USA probably said, we need to make it angrier, and then Ford Europe and Ford Australia and Ford South America said, no, don't do that, because our customers don't care about having a
Their
pissed off
customers
truck.
are not angry.
Yeah, where apparently we are. So that's a point, and I guess I bring it up because I want you guys to weigh in. Do you think the new Ranger looks good? I'm okay with it. I don't know, to my eyes, it's fine. I don't need an angry truck, but I'm curious as to everybody's thoughts. Next point I want to make is I do think daily drivability has also been improved with the Ranger across the board. There was something about that 2019 Ranger and that generation of truck that always felt kind of stiff. The rear end really did chatter quite a bit, and it wasn't terribly uncomfortable, but there's definitely been improvement just in suspension tuning, because the regular versions of this truck still use leaf springs, so it's not a massive change in the type of suspension, but just the way they tuned it definitely feels different. And that might be a worldwide thing too, because in world markets, these trucks are usually the biggest ones you can get, so they need to be stiff because they have to carry quite a bit of weight, whereas here in North America, we don't expect the payload and the towing that they do out of the rest of the world. So again, now that they got the chance to redesign it, I think they focused more on that sort of daily driving comfort rather than just overall, you know, capability and stiffness.
Well, and to that point, with the redesign, you know, you got just enough massaging on the interior that the ergonomics changed, and it's more comfortable in the old truck.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And now, Dad, let's dig into the Raptor a little bit, because this is obviously the most exciting truck in the lineup. We took this thing off-road on our trails. We did some good high-speed off-roading with it, too.
Yes, we did.
And it's excellent. There's no other word I can come up with for it. The power delivery is so good. There's so much power here on tap. Yeah, it just feels ridiculous. We also got the chance when we went on the launch to really take this thing on sort of like a Baja-style dirt course. And the handling, not just the power, but the handling, the turn in, it really bites. It feels so good. And then I think the one thing that sets it apart from the midsize pack is active suspension. You get the Fox live valve shocks, which means that from behind the wheel, when you're changing those drive modes, it's actually affecting the damping. Other trucks in this segment all have passive suspension. So to me, that's a mark in this truck's favor, just because, yeah, it can adapt a little bit better to different scenarios. And then you're also getting those new BF Goodrich KO3s, so they bumped up to that new generation of BFG tire too. Yeah, in the off-road arena, this is one of, if not the best off-road midsizer I think that's available.
In addition to which, it's right-sized. You know, there's one thing, Raptor, when it debuted, was such a huge hit, but it was a full-size truck.
Right.
And in my mind, it's always kind of been that, but it really only worked well in the desert.
Right.
And for those of us who live in places where you got these pesky things called trees, this is such a better truck.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can't just ignore the fact we didn't get a Ranger Raptor before. This is the first Ranger Raptor to land in North America. So we appreciate the fact that Ford brought it here for us, gave us that power plant, gave us the handling, the suspension. Yeah, it all comes together to make an incredible truck. But there is a downside, which is the price. And of course, we talk about this in just about every video. You're looking at a top-end Raptor here in Canada, yeah, over 80 grand. You can even get it up to 90 if you really deck it out. So it's not gonna come cheap. Hopefully that changes in the future. But for now, it's a great truck that's gonna cost you.
Absolutely.
Well, Dad, we are coming to the end of this one. Suffice it to say, it's exciting that we have a brand new Ranger here in North America. And there was a period of time when this truck was number 2 in sales behind the Tacoma. So I do kind of believe if there's one truck that's going to challenge for that sales crown, it is this one. So it'll be interesting to see at the end of 2024, you know, how the sales all play out with it. But yeah, like I said, exciting that we have a new Ford Ranger. The Raptor is incredible. Ford never skimps out when it comes to off-road packages and big power, and that's definitely the case here. And then even the base trucks are just better to drive on a daily basis. A lot of positives when it comes to this Ranger.
Exactly. So, you know, we're doing the pros and cons, and so far all the pros seem to be there.
Yep. So yeah, stay tuned. This is our Truck of the Year series. We're going to keep on going with some other new trucks for this year. And come right in the new year, we're going to crown our truck king for 2025. So yeah, that's it for this one. Now drop in the comments. Let us know what you think of the Ranger and everything you've seen in this video. While you're down there, don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, hit join to become a member of Truck King, and then come right back here to the channel to see what we're gonna pick as the winner.
Thanks, everybody.